Hey guys, this is gonna be what if Deku was in Zombie Apocalypse redo though, because that first one I did not like. The ship is gonna be Deku X Oxui, and it's only gonna be one for this one because there's someone in the comments that does not like multiple people like time because it's overwhelming. They say because there's a lot of people that do it. So I'll just do this, just Deku X Oxui, just for this series and a few more in the future. Um, if anyone wants to be my assistant for this, please tell me in this comment. I will pick out 5, and no, I'll pick up 2. Okay, so yeah. Actually, I'll just pick out whoever wants to help. Okay, so yeah. Hold on, give me a second. Sorry about that. Anyways, so let's start off. Um, Sorry about that. If you hear my sister, she's being loud. Um, so sorry about that. But okay, so I'm gonna start this off. So everything's going to go planned into the regular manga or anime. But the only parts that are changing is this. Deku never got one for all. Like, we're pretty much at high school. Let's say we're at the high school now, okay? Yeah. And I should also probably write a script. You know what? I'm gonna make it sound like a script. Real quick. So, Deku, when everyone kept saying that he can't be, well, a hero, he gave up on his dream for being a hero. But he did want to still protect people. So, he signed up to be a bodyguard. So, since he's a bodyguard, let's say 2 years later. No, not 2 years. No, he starts being a bodyguard when he's, so they're 14 in the anime. 15, he starts being a bodyguard. Right? And he starts training, and it's hard. He wants to give up, but he doesn't want to give up this dream. He doesn't, because he had to give up on the other. He just told himself he can't. He can't give up again. No, it's just not possible. And then he kept going on. He kept trying harder and harder. He was intelligent. He's more intelligent than anyone in the training. And since he kept pushing and pushing, the commander saw this. He said, "Good." The trainer saw this and said, "Good job. Keep pushing yourself." And everyone kept seeing him push and push. He was determined to become a bodyguard, right? A lot of people dropped out. Only a few stayed. New people came, they left, and some stayed. 3 years later, he's 18. He's a known bodyguard for people. He gets business offers for protecting with pro heroes, so he still gets to meet them. But he really likes doing his business alone. And one day, he got assignment with a doctor to protect him. And the pro hero that came with him was Azawa, and Bakugo came all along also that day. So, Deku's automatically with him. He got up in the morning early, went to his house, and stood outside until he came. The doctor came outside. He said, "Oh, you're already here?" He's like, "Yes, I've been here for a while." He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." He's like, "No, it's okay. Are you ready, sir?" And he says, "Yes, thank you." And Deku has a lot of confidence, so he knows what's going on. He has a really good sensing ability. Well, he can just sense stuff very well, right? And they get into the car, and he's right behind. He says, "Driver, go." The driver says, "Okay, as you wish." Right? And he says, "Where's the destination?" Deku says, "You're the driver for him. You should know, shouldn't you?" He says, "Yes. Just forgot, you know." And he says, "Yes. These are the coordinates." And he tells him a false lie, because he knows something's up. So and he says, but first we gotta pick up two people. He said, oh, gotcha. They pick up Azawa and Bakugo. Bakugo doesn't really remember Deku, right? And when he got into the car, he said, huh, you look like someone I know. Because Bakugo is a lot cockier, this universe, in a dickhead. And he says, huh, you look like someone I know. Some weakling, right? And Deku ignores him. And then they're driving. They pass where they're supposed to go. Zawa was about to say something. They said, hold it. And they get into boat docks. He says, sir, this is not where we're supposed to be. He says, yes, I know, and pulls a gun. But before he gets it out, before anyone reacts, Deku got it out of his hand and pointed at him. He says, take us back where we're supposed to, and I'll deal with you when we get there. Right? And he's like, I can't. Not part of my mission. He says, mission my ass. And he's shot. It's always like, we could have got answers from him. He's like, that's not my job. That's a hero's job. I'm a bodyguard. I protect. I kill. Right? And he is always like shocked what this kid just said. He's like, didn't you want to be, he's like, don't you want to be a hero, kid? Or so, he's like, do you have any heroism? He's like, I had. Then it got all taken away by me. There's some bullies. And even my own mother didn't want to believe in me. And then Izawa stopped talking. He said, oh, I'm sorry. He says, oh, don't be. Doesn't matter. Right, and he's just shocked. Right, and Bakugo thought back when he bullied Deku, he's like, is this Deku? And they get there, and let's say Deku gets in the car and starts driving off. And drives off. And when they got there, he drops him off and stays with him. But before he left, Bakugo said, is that you, Deku? And he says, yes. Why? He says, who are you? And that's an old name, Kachan. Right? And he's surprised that he remembers him. He says, what happened to you? And then Deku says, you happened, and walked off with his target, with this person that he's supposed to protect. And the person that he was supposed to protect was All For One's agent. Right? And Deku had an eerie feeling about him, but he had to protect him no matter what. It was his mission. Right? And his mission, so he protected him, and then he left. And then he walked home then he got into a car and drove home. And the next day was different. He didn't have any calls, and he thought no one needed to get protected. Right? And let's say that there's a girl banging on there's a girl saying, help me, please help me, please. And he opens the door, and it's a girl that has her tongue out, and she's crying. She says, help me, please. They're not human anymore. And he's confused. He says, come in. Lets her in and locks his door. And he asks, what's going on, ma'am? And she says, you haven't heard? He says, no, I just woke up. And then this girl looks at him and sees that he's shirtless, and she starts a little blushing. She says, look at the news. It should still be going for right now. And he says, what do you mean for right now? You'll see once you look. He's like, okay. he looks and he sees that there's a new virus, and he says, okay, what's wrong with people right now? And she says, everyone, the people that have the virus are eating each other. And when Deku said that, he ran to the bathroom and threw up. And when he got back, he saw Asui scared, sitting, crying. And he says, hey, are you okay? And she's like, you got over it? He's like, no, it's disgusting, but survival for the fittest, I feel like it's not. He's like, no, but we need, right now, my target to protect is you. When he said that, she's like, what do you mean? I'm your target. You're, the thing that you have to protect, right? And he's like, you came, you're crying, I must help the ones that are in need. Something that heroes have forgotten for a while. And when he said that, she told him that she was a hero in training. And that's what she believed in. She hated that. She hated how heroes did that. He says, yes, it's horrible. But then he says, what school did you go to? She said, UA. Then it clicked into his head. He said, wait, they said that quirks weren't working. Is your quirk working? She says yes, but it's because my quirk is different from theirs. Their quirks, it's offensive quirks that go away, not mutation type quirks. And when Deku heard that, he's like, okay, so what is your quirk? She says frog. And he says, ooh. He says, okay. And then she asks, what's yours? And then he says, I don't have one. I've been quirkless since a child. Oh, and then she says, oh, sorry. She says, it doesn't matter. Right? And if you hear loud noises in the back, sorry, it's my sister being loud, of course. But, and Deku's like, come with me. She says, what do you mean? Right? She's like, oh, okay. And Deku goes into his room, and you could just see guns. Loads of guns everywhere. And she says, are you a villain? Right? In a fighting stance. And he says, no. I'm a bodyguard. I have to have these guns in my house. I have a permit too. Right? And she's like, oh, I see. Right? And she says, oh, I see. Right? And he's like, it doesn't really matter anymore. You know what's going on. Anyways, after that, he got a few guns, and he got all of his ammo and guns, and he put them in a bag, and let's say he had a katana, and he's like, he gives, let's say, a pistol to Suyu. He says, do you know how to use this? She says no. Then he says, okay, you know how to fight, at least. She says, yes, and I know how to use my quirk very well. He's like, do you know how to use a knife at least, or some sort of sharp object? She says yes. He says, good. And he hands her a machete. She's like, what do I need this for? If these infected try to kill us, you're gonna have to kill them. And she's like, then when she heard that, she dropped it and went on her knees and started crying. Right? And he says, I'm sorry, but this is how it has to be. When she looked at him, she saw this from Deku. Like, let's say these sparks right here on his shoe were glowing. Right? And let's say that he put stuff around his arms and biteable marks, and he says, you're gonna have to do this too. She's like, oh, okay. And let's say Deku lives in an apartment on the top floor. He's like, was there anyone in my building that was infected? She said, yes, but they're all inside. He's like, good, let's go. And when they got onto the roof, they see that there's a family. And let's say it was Kirishima was there. Kirishima's family was there. And he said, kid. And then Suyu said, Kirishima? And Deku's like, you know him? She's like, yes, yes, he's a really good friend of mine. He says, okay, kid, do you want to come with us? I'll protect you. He's like, yeah, sure. And then he asks, can you use your quirk? He says, no, I cannot use it. My quirk, I think, was offensive, but it's also a defensive type. So it will come on if something bad's about to hurt me. He's like, okay, but just in case. And he, like, gives the whole family wrapping, stuff to wrap around their arms. He's like, take this, and this will protect you. Right? And he says, oh, okay. He takes it. He wraps it around everyone. And let's say that Kirishima has a little sister. Right? Has a little sister. And she's very scared. She doesn't know what to do. She doesn't want to do anything. And he says, grab your sister and let's go. He says, where are we going to go? There's people on the bottom floor that are affected. He's like, yes, I know. Just follow me. You guys are my oh my God. He's like, you guys are my... You guys are my targets You guys are my targets. Right? And he says, what do you mean we're your targets? Are you going to hurt us? He says, no. He's like, I'm sorry. You are my people that I have to protect. I don't know why I said targets. And they're like, oh, okay, if you say so. And let's say that Kirishima's sticking with Suyu. And then he's like, do you know how old he is? She says, no, I don't. Right? And let's say that Kirishima, he's like, I could use my quirk, but it's not to its full capacity. It's not sharp anymore. Just hard to get through my skin. Right? And he's like, good. So your offensive part went down with it, though. That's the bad part about it. He's like, yeah, right? Then he's like, okay, we should start going. He's like, where are we going? He said, I know somewhere that we could be safe for a long time. He's like, okay. They get to this bunker that he sees no one. He's like, they ask, what is this, sir? Like, this is my bunker. He's like, why do you have a bunker? He says, bad events happen. I got enough food for a while, for about 10 years. And they're like, 10 years? That's crazy. He's like, yes, very crazy. Well, I am a very protective person. Because then he's like, well, I don't have a quirk, so I kind of have to. I don't have like a generation quirk where I could generate anything. Right? And Kirishima was shocked that he doesn't have a quirk. Kirishima's whole family was shocked. But Suyu knew, so she's like, yeah, I guess he doesn't. So they go off, and they see one zombie. Deku sees it's a slow. He writes this down real quick. He says, right? And Suyu's like, what are you doing? Right? And he says, well, it might be a fast. Well, there might be different types of these guys, but we don't know for sure. She's like, well, I've seen fast ones, slow ones, and I've seen ones that are very muscular. And then he writes this all down. He's like, thank you for telling me this. This will be good information later in the future for us, right? And she's like, yeah, of course. Sorry I didn't tell you earlier. He's like, no, it's okay. And then they run off. Let's say a year later. Nothing's been good. Kirishima lost his dad. Suyu knows that her family's just dead, except for her brothers, because they've picked them up. That's how Suyu figured out that her parents died. Deku feels bad. Deku's been catching feelings for Suyu, but anything else, it's just been them. Suyu, Kirishima, Deku, Kirishima's sister, and mom, and and Suyu's sister and brother. That's all it's been for a while, until today. Deku's on a scavenging mission by himself. He has this rifle on his back with him, and a katana. And a katana. He has his katana out ready to kill, because he knows where the weak spots on the muscular people are. But then he sees another scavenging party. He gets his weapons ready because he doesn't know if they're hostile or not. And let's say that they're fighting a muscular, and one boy, no, not one boy, one person was about to use a grenade on it. Then Deku caught the grenade. Then Deku said stop and sliced its head off. And they're like, who are you and why should we not done that? He says, you guys are stupid if you guys don't know. It attracts more of them. It attracts more of the walkers. And maybe even some of the tankers. Because he named them all. The walkers, the runners, the tankers. But there's another kind. He knows that there's some other type thing out there. Doesn't know yet though. And these people that are in the group are different. There's a girl that has really poofy hair, but she just looks like a normal girl that carries a lot of knives. And a boy that has scars all over his face and arms. And then another guy that has blue hair. He says, he's asked, can you guys' quirks work? The girl with a lot of knives said, yes, mine is a blood, but it's hard to use since if you take some of their blood, they can hurt you. And he's like, how do you know for sure? And she's like, well, I just think that, right? And he's like, well, you don't know for sure until you try it. She's like, well, I'm not going to risk my own life. He's like, I know. Smart move, though, right? And she thinks that she's just playing with him now. That he's playing with her. Yeah. Right? And he's like, so, what are you guys doing? Right? They're talking, and then they hear some roar. They don't know what it is, but when they got to it, they snuggly got up to it. They just see this mutated walker. It's humongous, but it looks like it could run, and it has some sharp object on it. They don't know, some sort of object that's on it that looks like to be crystals or some shards, something like that. Then, let's say that the boy with a lot of scars threw a grenade at it from a different angle and ran back to them. That thing shot off crystals around that area, and they don't know what that was. So now Deku's kind of curious. He wants to keep testing with this new thing that they just found, but he wants to get out alive. He has too much to risk. And he says, I'll check on this thing another day, right? Because it's massive. It doesn't look like it could get through doors. These doors that are in the mall. So he's confused how this even got in. And then he's like, okay, I gotta go. Right? And they're like, where are you going, kid? There's nowhere to go. He's like, and then they see him he has a lot of food and everything. And they ask, what is that for? He's like, why do you need that much? And they just say that, he says, I have a base. Come, but if you have any food supplies, we going there first, and then we're coming back. He's like, yes, we do. We have quite a bit to last about 2 years. About to last 3 years. He says, good. That's going to be good for quite a bit of people. He says, yeah, it's good enough for us. For a little group. He's like, how many people were in yours, though? Then right? And sorry, I'm doing stuff. And they get their food and go back to the base, and they just, everyone sees the new people and they're like, more people I see. And he says, yeah, just, they brought more food though, so it doesn't matter how much food we have now, right? And it's like, okay, good. And give me a sec. And he's like, yes, we have enough food for even longer now. Let's go. Right, he gets in, they all get in. And before he closed the door, he saw a dog. A German Shepherd he saw. Right? And he saw it wounded by, it looks like a gun. So he went to it, picked it up, and brought it in. Then he said, can you go give me some bandages and other things he named off, right? And he patches up the dog. The dog is asleep. He's like, huh. He's like, nice to meet you. I'm Deku. And he doesn't know what he could call the dog, right? And he went to sleep. Well, that's it for this zombie apocalypse, part 1. Okay, so I'm gonna make some announcements. So I think I'm gonna end or redo What If Deku was Spider-Man, okay? So I'm probably gonna redo that. Maybe, I don't know for sure though. You guys tell me. Like I said, I am looking for assistance with these. I'm gonna look for 2 assistants. No, 4 assistants. 3 assistants, okay? And if you have new ideas, please tell me. And I hope the people that wanted with the Deku XU, I got it from Anti-Reaper. The Anti-Reaper was with the first one, but I didn't really like that first one, so I'm sorry if you did like this one. But yes, I did hope, and the person that wanted only one person be in the ship, it's going to be Deku XU, okay? It's just her. No one else for you, okay? And have a wonderful day, you guys. Okay? Bye.